Self-awareness is supposed to bring clarity, freedom, peace. That is the promise. But for many people, it does the opposite. The more they understand themselves, the heavier life begins to feel. They notice every flaw, every contradiction, every emotional reaction they cannot control. They don't feel enlightened. They feel exposed. Self-awareness does not always create relief. Sometimes it creates suffering, and this suffering confuses people, because no one warned them that seeing clearly could hurt. Today, we are going to explore why self-awareness makes some people more miserable, and why this experience is not failure, but a necessary psychological crossing. Modern culture treats self-awareness as an automatic cure. If you know yourself, you will be free. If you understand your patterns, you will change them. If you become conscious, life will become lighter. But psychology tells a quieter truth. Awareness is not transformation. It is exposure. It removes the fog. It does not rebuild the structure underneath. When you become self-aware, you begin to see things you were previously protected from seeing. Your defenses soften. Your narratives weaken. Your comforting illusions dissolve. This is not liberation yet. It is destabilization. And destabilization feels like loss. Before self-awareness, most people live inside a manageable version of themselves. They have explanations that soothe them, stories that justify their behavior, blind spots that protect their self-image. Self-awareness removes those blind spots. Suddenly, you see why you react the way you do, how often fear drives your decisions, how much of your personality is adaptation, not choice. This level of seeing is not neutral. It strips away innocence. You can no longer say, "I didn't know," and knowledge carries weight. For some people, that weight feels unbearable. One of the first costs of self-awareness is the loss of rest. The mind becomes a monitoring system. You watch your thoughts. You analyze your emotions. You dissect your reactions in real time. Nothing simply happens anymore. Everything becomes an object of scrutiny. This creates mental fatigue, not because awareness is bad, but because awareness without integration becomes surveillance. You stop living inside experience and start standing outside of it. You become a witness to yourself, but not yet a participant again. This distance feels cold. Awareness reveals patterns. But without compassion or emotional safety, those patterns turn into accusations. You notice your jealousy, your avoidance, your insecurity, and instead of understanding them, you judge them. You say things like, "I should be past this. I know better than this. Why am I still like this?" Self-awareness increases responsibility before it increases capacity. That imbalance creates shame. And shame is not growth. Shame tightens the nervous system. It increases threat. It deepens self-rejection. This is how awareness begins to hurt. Another hidden cost of self-awareness is identity disruption. Before awareness, you knew who you were. You had a stable self-image. Self-awareness destabilizes that image. You begin to realize parts of your personality are coping strategies. Some of your beliefs are inherited, not chosen. Certain values are defenses, not truths. This realization fractures identity. You are no longer who you thought you were, but you are not yet who you are becoming. This in-between state feels empty. Psychologically, it resembles grief, because you are losing a version of yourself that once felt safe. As awareness deepens, the shadow emerges. The parts of you that were hidden for survival. Unacceptable emotions, uncomfortable desires, contradictory impulses. Self-awareness does not create these things. It reveals them. And seeing them does not feel empowering at first. It feels threatening, because the shadow challenges your moral self-image. It asks you to accept complexity where you wanted clarity. This confrontation often feels like inner chaos, not because you are becoming worse, but because you are becoming honest. Misery is not the goal of self-awareness, but it is often a stage, a transitional phase between unconscious stability and conscious integration. At this stage, old defenses no longer work, new capacities are not yet developed, identity feels unstable. This creates emotional vulnerability. You feel raw, overexposed, easily overwhelmed. Many people interpret this as regression. It is not. It is reorganization. This is the point where many people turn back. They decide, "I was happier before. I think too much now. I've ruined my peace." So they return to distraction, numbing, surface-level living. Not because awareness was wrong, but because they entered it without support. Awareness without grounding feels like standing in open space without shelter. The mind retreats when it feels unsafe. Self-awareness is not the destination. It is the doorway. Walking through it requires something more. Something slower. Something embodied. But until that arrives, awareness alone can feel like a burden. This does not mean you have gone too far. It means you have gone deep enough to encounter the work that follows. Self-awareness becomes painful when it remains isolated in the mind. Many people become aware, but nothing else changes. They see their patterns clearly, yet their emotional responses stay the same. This creates a dangerous split. The mind understands. The body does not follow. Insight explains behavior, but it does not automatically soften it. Without integration, awareness floats above experience like commentary without influence. You know what is happening, but you cannot alter how it feels. This gap creates frustration. Because knowing should help, but instead it watches. As awareness deepens, some people fall into hyperconsciousness. They notice everything, every thought, every emotional shift, every internal reaction. Nothing is allowed to pass unobserved. This level of monitoring is not mindfulness. It is control disguised as insight. The nervous system interprets constant observation as pressure. There is no rest. Experience becomes performance. Emotion becomes data, and life begins to feel mechanical. This is when awareness stops feeling like clarity and starts feeling like confinement. Awareness increases responsibility before it increases capacity. You see your flaws before you know how to hold them. You recognize your avoidance before you know how to stay present. This timing mismatch creates shame. Because now, there is no excuse. You know why you react. You know where it comes from. So when you repeat the behavior, you judge yourself more harshly. I know better. So why am I still doing this? But shame does not resolve behavior. It intensifies it. The nervous system hears shame as threat, and threat pushes the system back toward old coping patterns. This is how awareness can deepen the very cycles it was meant to end. There is a reason ignorance feels peaceful. Before awareness, many people lived inside emotional buffering. They were protected by unexamined beliefs, automatic reactions, and familiar explanations. Awareness removes that buffering. It exposes contradiction. And contradiction is uncomfortable. Ignorance feels lighter not because it is healthier, but because it requires less emotional capacity. When awareness arrives too quickly, the system becomes overloaded. So the mind longs for simplicity. Not because truth is unwanted, but because safety feels absent. Many people experience this phase in therapy. They talk, they analyze, they understand, but they do not feel better. This creates exhaustion. Because insight keeps arriving, but relief does not. The nervous system remains unchanged. So awareness piles up without resolution. This is not a failure of therapy. It is a mismatch of pacing. Understanding must move at the speed of integration. Otherwise, insight becomes pressure. And pressure creates resistance. One overlooked truth about self-awareness is that it reveals emotional limits. You don't just see who you are. You see feelings you were never taught to hold. Grief, anger, desire. Awareness reveals, but it does not contain. Without regulation, it feels like opening doors without walls. Everything arrives at once. Not because you are weak, but because you are seeing more than your system can safely process. At this stage, a quiet trap appears. Some people identify with being aware. They analyze instead of feel, explain instead of experience. Awareness becomes a shield, protecting them from vulnerability while creating distance. You may understand yourself yet feel disconnected. That distance feels calm, but it is lonely. The pain of self-awareness comes from exposure without safety. You are open, but unsupported, honest but ungrounded. This is not failure. It is timing. The system has opened before it is ready to stabilize. This discomfort does not mean something went wrong. Growth destabilizes before it reorganizes. If you are here, you have not failed. You are in the middle of the process. Self-awareness hurts when it arrives before emotional safety. If this resonated with you, consider liking the video, sharing your thoughts, or subscribing for future explorations. Awareness reveals the truth. Safety makes it livable.